You want to be careful about the kind of money media that you consume, because there's a lot of people out there who are very misleading and are trying to share information for their own benefit. I would say one of the best things I've seen is I really like Khan Academy. They have a personal finance course that goes through a lot of the vocabulary and concepts. I think that's a really good place to start. There's also amazing books out there. I'm a big fan of Ramit Sethi, and so he has a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I would start with something like Khan Academy to get the basics, and always be careful about the finfluencers and money content creators that you're listening to.
Welcome back to the Project WealthWise podcast, where we talk with the financial experts of today on how young people can become successful with money. I'm Kinjal, founder of Project WealthWise, and today's episode has a heavy focus on investing and the money mindset. We are welcoming Cara Nicole, an esteemed finance content creator. Thank you so much, Cara, for being here today. It's an honor to be able to interview you. Could you please start off with a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, my name is Cara. I go by Cara Nicole on social media, and I'm a financial education content creator, primarily on YouTube.
That's wonderful. What inspired you to, learn about personal finance and share this knowledge with an audience?
Yeah, I think it really sparked for me during the pandemic. I moved back with my parents, and I was able to see how they retired early and a lot of their neighbors retired early, and they were outside enjoying life. I was working on the computer all day at my 9 to 5 job, and kind of hit me of, oh, I want to figure out how I can get from my point now to where they are. And that means I really need to learn something here. And so with all the extra time during the pandemic, I did a lot of reading and watching videos and consuming a lot of the type of content I actually make now to help me get educated and get inspired about financial education. And that's what kickstarted me into it. And once I realized the fundamentals and that financial freedom was very attainable if you commit to something and you keep saving and investing, it made the path a lot easier for me. And it made it so that I started talking about financial education to anyone who would listen, my friends, family, coworkers. And eventually some of them, I think, got annoyed with me talking about it so much that they were like, oh, you should make videos about this, which is, I think, their version of like, okay, be quiet, go take this energy somewhere else. But I loved making videos back in the day when I was younger. And so I was able to combine that passion about speaking about money and finance with video making. And so a few years ago, I started doing that consistently, and I've been able to since make it a full-time career for myself.
That's wonderful. I think all of us picked up a lot of skills during the pandemic, so I think it's great that finance was one of yours.
Yeah, no, pandemic gave us plenty of time to learn lots of random
Yes.
things.
So what I want to ask you first off, when it comes to investing, do you believe that teenagers who are learning to experiment with investing should lean towards long-term investing to save for their futures more, or can they look towards short-term trading because they have more room to take risk than adults?
I would say never go into short-term day trading. Statistically, you're always losing. So I think it's something like 99% of day traders over a long enough horizon don't make money. So it's not something that I would see as actual investing. It's really just gambling. Even though a lot of people try to package it and sell it to you as something that's worth taking your time and investing in. So I say long-term investing is amazing, especially when you're younger, because you have such a long horizon. You really have all the things stacked towards you and benefiting you there. So if you get started, even if it's just like $10 a month, investing maybe some babysitting money, putting it into like a Roth IRA or a brokerage, and just building that habit even, you'll be well on the way to financial freedom. And I think it's such an amazing thing for young people to get started on as soon as possible.
Yeah, like the earlier you start, the more you can accumulate as you move on to your future. So
Absolutely. Yeah, compound interest is incredible. And if you can start young, you're only benefiting even more.
that's really true. So money is not just about skills, right? It's also the mindset, the emotional intelligence you need to have. So when it comes to the emotional intelligence required to make money, what is one mindset trait you believe anyone who wants to become financially successful should master?
Ooh, yeah, you make a great point there because money is a deeply emotional thing. I think people often assume if you learn the money rules and some of the fundamental vocab, then you're good to go. But really, that part's easy. The hard part is figuring out how to improve your emotional relationship with money. When it comes to building wealth over time, I would say I think there's a lot there. One of the big ones would be that what is it, delayed gratification, feeling okay that you're not going to get everything immediately. Now, you want to have a balance. I don't think it's great to deprive yourself so much that you're miserable in life and just so that you can save money. But if you can really visualize your future self as a real person who you are, I think that helps a lot versus this very abstract future you that you can push problems toward. Um, and there's actually been studies about that. The more that you can imagine your future self as a real version of you versus this, concept that doesn't exist, the better you are with any type of long-term planning, including finances. So that's the one I would embrace the most. I think there's a lot of other things there too, depending on how you grew up. And so it's really helpful to reflect on your childhood, your parents or your guardians, money messages that they sent you. A lot of the ones that I see are things like scarcity mindset, feeling like you're always going to run out, so you've got to save and never get to use that money, which can work against you sometimes, or this idea that money is evil, that it's not something that you want to ever have. And I think there's a lot of valid criticisms about money in our system, but I think if you internalize that mindset too much, you can set yourself up for a really bad future where you're kind of you don't know how to handle your own finances. But yeah, I think if you're going to start somewhere, really learning to visualize your future self and take care of that version of you is a great place to start.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I think those are amazing points. And as we know, there's a common misconception that money isn't about the mindset. It's just about the skills, knowing like how to invest, how to trade. And yes, that's a huge part of it, but the mindset is such an important aspect that I think so many people ignore.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's something that you never fully fix. It's, any age you are, you're going to be working on something related to your money mindset. But that's also life, and we're constantly evolving. And so that's where I think it's really important to reflect, check in with yourself, be mindful of the influences around you, whether it's people or the media that you consume, because those all influence that money mindset.
Absolutely. So when it comes to, youth and finance, at what specific age do you think that young people should start to learn about money?
I think as early as possible. Obviously, when you're very young, it's not within your ability to really go and seek out resources. So I think that's where parents and guardians or just the adults in the room can really influence and help them understand things. And it's going to change age to age what that money message is. I think for my parents, a lot of times it was learning the idea that, to be wealthy is to be able to not think so much about how much groceries cost and to feel, financially secure. That was a really big goal that they tried to instill into me. And so I think at any age you can start learning. Whenever it comes to more concrete things like investing, learning about savings rates, different accounts, I would say I think like middle school with guardianship would help, but high school especially, because that tends to be when people are starting to make money and do side jobs. So that's the opportunity you can have to, open a Roth IRA and start contributing a little bit every year because you legally are allowed to. So yeah, I guess it really, my answer is it depends. And I think just like when it comes to investing in general, the earlier you can start, the better.
Sort of extending off of that. So if a teenager, was earning money from a part-time job, how would you convince them to save and invest that money rather than spending it all on their wants?
Yeah, that's a good one because I think no matter what your age, you're always tempted by that immediate want. You see something cool on social media or you're window shopping and you want to get it, especially if you have money available right now. I would say what was helpful for me was playing around with like a compound interest calculator and seeing. I actually built a spreadsheet for myself that showed if I'm this age and I contribute this much monthly, assuming like a 7 to 8% annual growth rate, which is pretty standard for like the S&P 500 with inflation adjusted. If I assume all those things, I can retire at X age, and and I would play around with that and say, okay, well, if I ended up cutting spending a little and saved a little more here, and maybe like if I got promoted and I didn't spend the bonus on random things, but I saved it instead, wow, suddenly I can retire 10 years earlier. That's 10 years extra of freedom where maybe I still want to work, but maybe I don't. Maybe I want to travel. Maybe I want to spend more time with family. Maybe I want to work on passion projects. That became like the very tangible goal in my mind. So seeing that age, seeing how much that nest egg grows. So I would really encourage people getting started, figure out what inspires you there and build up that goal in your brain and work towards that.
Yeah, like motivating yourself from the start so that you know I have this goal set and I'm not going to let myself get distracted from it. I think that's wonderful advice.
100%. Yeah, because and every hour that you work, you're getting paid, but that also means every time you spend money, that's hours of your life that you're not wasting away, but you're spending and that you can't get back. And so that's another thing to be very mindful of is when you're going to impulse buy this thing, is this $30 thing really worth like 2 hours of my life? Or is it something that I'll be fine without? That's a good question to continue asking yourself.
So back to again delaying gratification.
Yeah, exactly. And figuring out what's a need, what's a want. It really helps to also audit your own emotions and reflect on like when I want to impulse buy something, is there some deeper feeling there that I'm having? A lot of times for people, it's stress, anxiety, insecurity, sadness. And so those negative emotions will spur this wanting to feel better and this kind of dopamine rush. And so we'll go and buy something. If we can find other outlets to cope, that can be really helpful. Maybe instead we go for a run or we spend time with family or we go watch our favorite TV show. So that's where that reflection was really helpful in working on that emotional relationship.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really wonderful advice. So what I want to ask you next is what is a common money myth that many people believe that can significantly harm their finances in the future?
Hmm. I would say common money myth is that you don't need to invest, is that it's fine to just leave your money in like a checking account or even a savings account and just let it be for forever. There's a lot of folks I know who are on the brink of retirement age who've never invested because they are maybe for different reasons. Maybe they're suspicious of banks, they're suspicious of investing, or they just never wanted to learn. And all of those things really hurt you in the long run because inflation with money means that I think it's like 2 to 3% every year on average. The kind of value of money, it's going up where you get less for $1. And so $100 today is going to be worth a lot less than $100 in 10 years. So if you only keep that money in a checking or savings account, it's not going to be worth a lot and not as much in the future. That's where investing really helps you hedge against inflation and grow that nest egg a little bit more. I would also say another kind of wrapped into that are things like high yield savings accounts are not investing. I think they are important. They have an important role in securing, like they can be where you put your emergency fund. But if you're trying to invest and really grow wealth, a high yield savings account isn't going to be the best way to do that.
Thank you so much for bringing investing up and the importance of it because, we've heard people say that the stock market is one of the greatest wealth building tools that you have access to, and not many people either know how to access that or want to access it. So I think it's wonderful how you brought that point up.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you had to suggest the most reliable resources for a young person to learn about money, something that's accurate and easy to understand, what would those resources be?
Yeah, you want to be careful about the kind of money media that you consume because there's a lot of people out there who are very misleading and are trying to share information for their own benefit, like funnel you into an expensive course of theirs, something like all the day trading gurus or the crypto gurus. They're not going to really help you. And even myself, like I am not a financial advisor, so you have to be careful about even what I say and make sure that you double check and you research for yourself. I would say one of the best things I've seen is I really like Khan Academy. I think they make great content. They're a fantastic educational nonprofit. They have a personal finance course that goes through a lot of the vocabulary and concepts. I think that's a really good place to start. There's also amazing books out there. I'm a big fan of Ramit Sethi, and so he has a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I think there's another book, I forget the authors, but it's called Your Life. What is it? Your Money or Your Life, I think is what it's called. That's another great one. Um, but yeah, I would start with something like Khan Academy to get the basics, and always be careful about the finfluencers and money content creators that you're listening to.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing up finance books because those are an incredible resource. I've learned most of my financial knowledge from finance books. And I think, not many people realize that there's such an amazing source for learning about money. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy the books either. The library is an incredible resource, and there's so many books there. You can get it for free. Support the public libraries. So that's a great place to get started.
Absolutely. So the last question I want to ask you is if a young person right after watching this video wants to get started on their investing journey, could you give them a step-by-step process in order to do so?
Yeah. And again, caveat being, I'm not a financial advisor. So this is what I've done in the past that I think I would tell a friend. Um, First off, I would make sure that you have an emergency fund of some sort. I think that's going to be the most important thing. If you're living with parents and you're a teenager, that might be less critical. But for me, when I was younger, post grad, after college, I wanted to have 3 to 6 months available in like a high yield savings account. After that, I try to invest really only in low cost index funds. So this is a type of fund where you have a bunch of stocks versus just buying one stock. That helps diversify and reduce your risk overall. So one of the kind of low cost index funds out there, like S&P 500, I would go and invest in those in different accounts. My first account would be a Roth IRA. I think that's an amazing tax advantaged account, meaning you get certain benefits there. If you're working and your company offers a 401k, that's another really great option. And I would also open a general brokerage account, which is just a general investing account that you can buy low cost index funds in with something like Vanguard or Fidelity. I know there's a lot of information. So, kind of recapping, make sure you have emergency funds and then regularly and consistently investing in Roth IRA and brokerage accounts by buying low cost index funds. That would be my best method. And then just being consistent with it. Again, only if you only invest $10 to $50 a month, that's fine. At least that's something. And I think building that muscle of regularly investing is incredibly important.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a wonderful step-by-step plan that anyone can easily understand. So thank you so much. I think we'll wrap it up here for today. Thank you so much for being here. You gave some amazing advice and insights, and I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to talk to you and share this knowledge with any young person who wants to get started on their personal finance journey. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love that you're doing this. I love that you've learned so much about personal finance at such a young age and that you're now sharing that with others. It's really incredible.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you gained valuable insights and knowledge, and as always, if you are serious about your financial future and success, make sure to follow us so that you never miss out on a future episode. Thank you to everyone supporting our mission of financially educating young people everywhere, and I will see you in the next episode.